Jeremy, 3 weeks ago, it was difficult for me to find a roadmap to putting together a basketball roster for next year. It really was. It's starting to take a little bit of shape, and we got some good news over the weekend. Cam Hayes from North Carolina State, a 6'3", 180-pound point guard, is joining the fray. He's got 3 years left to play. Was a four-star recruit by Rivals a couple of years ago. He's an average athlete. He's got average quickness, but he's got incredible floor vision and awareness. He, as a freshman, started 14 games a couple of years ago. He scored 8 points and dished out 3 assists, led the team in assists as a freshman, shot 36% from three. He had 16 points in a win at Virginia, had 20 points against Notre Dame this past year for them. Came off the bench, and his statistics are a little bit underwhelming, but he did play in all 32 games, started 13 of them. But he's a guy with 3 years left that has got some ability, and we just got news over the last 5 minutes that, and this is coming from the LSU basketball Twitter account, not even some kind of looking around from some sources. And Mwani Wilkinson is going to come back and play next year. Your thoughts on that?
That's definitely, I mean, if he's, coming back and it's locked in, it's definitely a great ad. I think, you're looking at that roster right now and trying to figure out where you're going to get some SEC wins at. I think you bring a guy like Mwani back who's had a ton of experience last season playing at that level. I know he's going to continue to work on that corner three and play the defense that he can play. But, yeah, I think it's a good pickup for the Tigers.
It is. Mwani became kind of a 3-and-D guy this year. He was not his first year in Baton Rouge. He was really just an athlete who could dunk and played some defense. And he expanded his game a little bit this year. Now the hope is that you take it another step moving forward because he's a great athlete who has shown he can knock down a three, not like one night he got hot, consistently throughout the year. He was knocking that shot down. And so maybe you build on that as the ability to shoot the corner three, and now you become a threat putting the ball on the floor and maybe can score a different way. Just kind of adding to your game as your career moves forward. Mwani just finished his sophomore year, so he's got 2 more years as well. And to be quite honest, I mean, this is a really stupid thing to do in the year of the transfer portal, but I'm looking at all the guys who are added to next year's team and seeing what they can give you the following year. Because I believe next year they're not going to be able to play in the postseason. That's a belief of mine. That has not been decided, and it's possible they do not, but that they can. But I'm looking at what you're laying the groundwork for. And you're talking about a guy, when you bring on Cam Hayes, he's got 3 years to play. You bring in a transfer from Northwestern who has 3 years to play. You bring in a freshman who's got 4 years to play. The 2 guys from Murray State have a year or 2 left, but Mwani's got 2 years left to play. And if you give, and I don't, does the COVID year last year count? I don't know. I don't know. But they're laying the foundation with some younger players, and the hope is that you can fill out a competitive roster next year and then be able to push off the dock the year following.
Yeah, I think especially with some of these guys, obviously not, top projected top 10 picks or lottery picks, you figure these guys will be in college for at least a couple seasons unless any of them just play outside of their minds. I know I didn't think Tari Eason would be able to play his way to that level, but that's exactly what he did. So maybe a couple of these guys can do that, but for the most part, I think these are guys are going to be sticking around the program, guys who really weren't in that national spotlight, getting the TV time that, a lot of these college kids want to have. They're going to get that at LSU, especially, early on with it being Coach McMahon's first season. So it's going to be a big step up for these guys. They're going to, really get a chance to really see where they are. It's going to be a daunting XAC slate next season, but you definitely are getting more players in the locker room to have to try to do that.
So now you have Juice Hill as your starting point guard, who was Murray State's starting point guard last year. You got Trey Hannibal, I think is probably your starting 2. He was their 6th man last year, but I think he'll be your starter at the 2 guard. Cam Hayes is your kind of reserve between those 2 guys. I think Kendall Coleman and Cornelius Williams are front court players. Right now, they're your starters because you don't have any other front court players. I don't know that Cornelius Williams is ready. He's just a freshman next year, but he is 6'10" and a pretty good athlete. Kendall Coleman is at least physically ready to play. How productive he'll be, that's to be determined. And then you've got Mwani out of the portal. So right now, LSU's basketball is sitting there with 7 players, which is better than I would have anticipated at this point. When you were looking at it 3 weeks ago, you did get 2 guys to come from Murray State. You do have a high major transfer in Cam Hayes. You picked up a 4-star recruit. He's probably a 3-star recruit out of high school. And then Mwani, what you've got out of the portal there, who's a veteran who started a lot of games here in Baton Rouge. So it says a lot about Mwani. Wants to be here at LSU. That's a guy that I certainly would have thought from the West Coast, no roots here, would not have been a guy that would stuck around through this change, but it determines that he is. And there are certainly a couple more guys that are in the transfer portal from LSU. We'll see what they're looking at. I don't necessarily expect anyone else to come back, but maybe you can go to Murray State and grab one more Conference Player of the Year, if that's possible, and all of a sudden things start to look a little bit better. But at least they got some bodies now.
Yeah, my boy Chris Jarrell in the Body for a Chat, he says it's not surprising some of these players didn't get picked up out of the portal. I don't know if that's true or not, man. I think some of these guys got some interest, at least a bare minimum.
Oh, Mwani could have gone a lot of places. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure about that. So I think maybe, with Mwani coming back, maybe one or two guys, maybe I'm being a little too greedy here, but it's definitely a good pickup to see a guy who's played here with not, a certain future still decide to come back and play for the team. So good pickup for the Tigers.
If you're talking about, in terms of what they need for next year to field a competitive team, they are grossly undermanned in the front court. You've got a skinny freshman and a guy coming from Northwestern State who's been a freshman last year. So they don't have impact guys in the front court right now. Those guys are young. They have a ton of basketball to play. So that's not to say they can't ever play in the SEC. They're not ready to play right now. So.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.